Join me in welcoming Nimrod Vromen. Hey, Nimrod, how you doing today?
I'm wonderful, thank you. How are you?
I'm doing good, thanks. So glad to have you here with us today as we talk about your book, Prompting Happiness, a guide to prompting a life worth living. But before we get into the book, tell us a little bit about you and how you show up in the world.
Well, today I'm proud to say that I'm a published author, and I'm a year into founding two startup companies that are bringing the AI revolution to domains that are very important to me. One of them is professional services. It's a company called ARC, and the other is For Posterity. It's actually bringing AI to the elderly, allowing them to preserve their legacies in book format with just simple 5-minute recordings. So today I'm an author and an entrepreneur. I'm also writing my second book now, Prompting War. But I wasn't always an author and an entrepreneur. For 16 years, up until 2 years ago, I was a lawyer, just a corporate lawyer, and I worked with startup companies, representing hundreds of them from inception through their entire life cycle. And despite being entrepreneurial and full of ideas, I was mainly living vicariously through the entrepreneurs that I wrote contracts for. So I went through a very big change 2 years ago that sort of coincided with the writing of Prompting Happiness.
I love it. Can't wait to hear about the other book, but we'll talk about that when it comes out. Tell us about Prompting Happiness. What is it about and how can we use it?
Yeah, so Prompting Happiness is it's like a diary of my introspective journey into my own life, but what it gives the readers is my recipe for happiness. I know that every person approaches happiness a different way, maybe define happiness a different way, but I am a little bit analytical, a little bit philosophical, like to bring a few worlds together, different paradigms together, and try to take out of them a recipe of actions and habits that I can add to myself, for myself, to pursue happiness. And Prompting Happiness is like a menu of prompts, but not prompts to GPT, rather prompts to oneself, self-prompting, what I call, to improve different facets of your life that, as studied by very respectable institutions, correlate directly with one's consistent, sustainable happiness. So the book basically lists journals my entire journey up until now, my exposition to AI, my thoughts about the future of how the world will look like in the age of AI, because I think that planning for your own happiness and ignoring the fact that everything is about to change is also might prove to be futile. So the book does all of that, looking back, looking into the present, and looking into the future, and then ends in a theory for happiness that is basically a menu of self-prompts to happiness, about 30 or 40 of them. And then you can add your own and build ones for yourself. It's relatively modular, this theory.
Nice. So can you give us an example of a self-prompt and how that works?
Yes, of course. So basically, my theory for happiness is like let's call it, it's similar to Maslow's pyramid. There are things that I think everyone must pursue as core principles. And for me, it's relationships and religiously retaining a positive approach, like a glass half full approach. The second layer out of 3 are goals that we pursue not for quick wins, but rather to really slowly edit our identity, like things that we take on that begin as hobbies but become a part of our identity. So for mine, it's dancing salsa specifically, enjoying food, snowboarding for sports, that sort of stuff. And the top layer is very personal. It's like small wins. And then what you do is when you have your pyramid of things to pursue, you break them down into prompts. You don't just say, oh, I should be more mindful or more in the moment. You actually have to work on yourself with context, like you would with GPT. Give it context, it will give you a better result. And that's how you get those things. So when I say religiously retain a positive approach to life, if you don't really break that down into self prompts, and you don't have real tools for that, then you're really still at sort of the mercy of your energies and the mercy of your surroundings, and all you have is that statement about yourself. So I have a lot of self-prompts for a positive approach to life, and I come from Israel, so keeping a positive approach to life gets tested a lot. So this is battle tested, pun intended. Mine is one of my main ones. One of the ones that I love the most is never blaming your surroundings for something that feels negative, that is external, like not negativity from within, like external negativity that might come up. Don't go so quickly to blaming your surroundings. Oh, that person did this to me, or this country or these people did that to me or caused this to me, or this sort of social injustice caused this to me. But rather look at the individuals who you blame, and then run this self-prompt, which is to reverse engineer their actions, which you deem to be hurtful to you, back to their best intentions, to their good intentions. Don't assume that anyone in your life is a villain. Most people don't wake up and say, oh, I'm going to be the world's Bond villain today. They have their own good intentions, and they take action based on that. So in the book, I explore specifically the hardest thing for me to explore as an Israeli, which is October 7th. And I try to look into the life of a person who woke up on that day and actually conduct that attack on us, and break it down to how exactly that person got to that point, without having to just tie it to an arbitrary concept like pure evil. Because when you do that, when you break down the chain of cause and effect, it doesn't change how you act towards sources of external negativity, but it relieves from you this sense of the possibility of arbitrary evil or arbitrary negativity from outside. You sort of reassume control of your situation. So you're like, oh, I understand exactly how people were able to conduct attacks that otherwise I wouldn't understand. And I'm going to calculate what I'm going to do next, and how I'm going to deal with it, understanding how they did that from a place of a mission that they may have had, and not just from a place of comic book evil, which I believe exists very rarely in the world.
That is, especially in light of October 7th, that's very, not just enlightened, but very gracious and forgiving of you. I mean, it would be real easy, especially in your country right now, to just live in a place of hate.
Yeah.
And maybe even understandable. You know what I mean? Just be like, well, yeah, okay. I mean, he earned it, So for you to be in that place where you can find understanding in those worst of circumstances, I think all of us could learn a real lesson, just from that, attitude of graciousness and understanding for people that obviously sometimes it feels like there isn't a whole lot of grace to be able to give to them.
Yeah, and it doesn't necessarily change what you do next or what you support doing next, but if you run this prompt, it doesn't have to be on someone who attacked you like that. It can be on to avoid road rage, right? It's that same, if someone doesn't drive in front of you in a red light, like try to run that prompt on that person to what sort of day they're going through and why they're not noticing that the red light turned to green. And you won't necessarily be now starting this domino effect of honking your horn and then cursing them and then just going nasty, which then can translate into other actions in the rest of your day that have nothing to do with that traffic light, right? So it's and then you can still honk your horn if you need to get somewhere and wake them up, but at least you're not doing it out of a place of of anger, which is just bad for you, right? That's one prompt. There's others. There's understanding that there's balance in life. So looking at a very negative situation from the following perspective: oh, there's a lot of opportunity in this. There's a lot of opportunity to balance this out. If something so negative is happening, then herein opened up a lot of opportunities to do a lot of good. And I get into specific examples of that. Another prompt, which is nice, I speak about my daughter there, my younger daughter, is the power of humor, incorporating humor into as many events as possible, not in a cynical way or not to sort of like diminish from any importance from an important event, but to understand that, okay, let's take this seriously now, but knowing humans, we will probably be laughing at this in retrospect a week from now, and then sort of like, or a month from now, or a year from now, and then sort of like simulating this stand-up comedy about a situation that when you're in it, you think it's the worst ever. If you simulate like yourself doing a stand-up about it 10 years from now, then that's also a good prompt, self-prompt for retaining positivity in hard times.
Absolutely love that. So is there an element of, I know you said these are, self prompts and not chat GPT prompts, but is there an element in the book then that you talk about how you could actually use chat GPT to help you find happiness if you struggle with doing that on your own?
Yeah, well, of course. The second part of the book is actually a log of my first conversations with GPT, of one of its inferior versions, and understanding it to understand us. And two things came out of that. One of them would be available to anyone who visits my site, by the way, or the book's website, promptinghappiness.com. One of the conclusions that came out of it was that if a large language model, a generative AI model, works in the following way, it produces the next most probable word based on its data set in a statistical analysis. And we actually might be behaving and saying things that are the next most probable thing to say based on everything, all the context that we come into a conversation or an action with, all of our history, our genes, our culture, our parents, our family, etc., then we are a lot like it. And what the conclusion there is, that if you need to give it a lot of context for it to produce magic, then you need to give yourself a lot of context when you want to do something, and then you can produce magic. So that's just a conclusion that you sort of like read and understand from the book. And then what you could really take away from it and actually download from the website is this document that I prepared, which is called the self-extension prompts. So a lot of people will go into GPT and ask it a simple question like, help answer me this, or search for me that, or what does this do, solve me this math problem. People who use it in a little bit more advanced manner, they'll do role playing, act as my coach, act as my math teacher, and answer me this math question, right? But I use GPT a lot based on a document that I feed into it called the self-extension prompts. And I tell it to act as me, as like the best version of me. So I wrote in this document, and you can download it on the website, promptinghappiness.com, the structure for self-extension prompts. So, and every person can fill it in like you would fill in a diary. It's about an 8-page document, talks about your characteristics, your values, the way that you communicate, and your different capacities in life, both personal and professional. And you feed that document into GPT, and you say, I want you to answer this question as if you were a version of me that is in a good place and is closer to omnipotence when it comes to access to data, right? Because we don't have access to all the data like it does. And then it sort of like answers you as you, and then you can have a conversation with yourself, and that's where the magic begins. And I love that. I think that's the best takeaway from the book. It's actually not in the book. The document self-extension prompts is available on the website.
I love that. Well, the book is called Prompting Happiness, a guide to prompting a life worth living. And it really does help you learn how to be able to prompt yourself to live a happy and upbeat life. And the cool part about it is you can actually get the ebook today for free. The link I just put it in the chat for people. Vromen, or Nimrod, I'm really so just excited about all the things you're doing, and so impressed with your graciousness and your attitude in the face of all the things you're going through right now. Just before I let you go, one last thing. Just kind of give us some words of encouragement, whatever's coming to your mind today, to help us see the world in a happier and more positive way today.
If we look today at events in the past that we can't imagine people having to have sort of gone through these events. And we look at the survivors of these events today, we will most likely see that about 95, 96% of them did not carry trauma from these events. They most likely grew from these events and found a way to to turn a negative into a positive in different sort of, I guess, velocities or volume. And if we understand that you can turn every negative into a positive, if we go by a certain sort of chain of thought or chain of steps or chain of actions and adopt the right habits, then we can do it for ourselves as well, even when we're facing hardship.
Absolutely. Well, I appreciate the book. I do encourage everybody to get Prompting Happiness today. And thanks so much for being a guest here with us on the show today.
Thank you so much. Thanks, Steve, for your time.